Hi, it's been a while, but I'm back. Maybe? Who knows? Hi, welcome back to Reading with Money. I'm Money, and today I'm doing a massive catch up, I guess. Yeah, my last video was uploaded like a couple of months ago now, so yeah, end of July, I think. It's the end of September, so lots of things to talk about. First of all, is the reason why I haven't been here. Number one being that Good Omens ruined my life. I think that's it. At the end of July, the second season of Good Omens came out, and I binged it in one night, all 6 episodes, and that put me in a massive slump, reading-wise and life-wise, I guess. Don't ask me why, okay? It just emotionally devastated me. It's the best thing I've seen this year so far, I think. Backup story, I love Good Omens, the book. I have it right here because one of the books I have to talk to you about is this, because I reread it. I first read this like 10, 11 years ago, and I've always loved it. I just love Neil Gaiman and obviously Terry Pratchett. I've mentioned both of these authors before in my channel. And the show is just so perfect. I promise this is a reading update, but the show is so perfect. Michael Sheen and David Tennant have my whole heart, and I am just obsessed. And I can't remember the order of things, but after I finished Good Omens twice, because then my best friend had to watch it and I watched along with her, so I watched it twice, like in the same week. And then I watched reaction videos, because you know, if you have seen it, why you have to see other people reacting to it. And then I read a bunch of fan fiction, because of course I read theories on Tumblr. It felt to me like being back in Tumblr 10 years ago, okay? My poor fan heart could not take it. I need to stop. Someone needs to stop me. At some point, I also reread the book, and then I started listening to the audiobook as well, because there's a full cast version. My light went out. I don't know what I did with it. Whatever. What was I saying? Yeah, there's a full cast audio. I don't listen to audiobooks. I don't like them. This is way too bright. Was it bright this whole time? I don't know what I did. Was it bright before? I'm not gonna redo it. Probably. Anyway, so yeah, the full cast audio recording has David Tennant and Michael Sheen playing their characters. Anyway, I will be talking more about Good Omens a bit later, because I have to tell you everything I read in July, because I never did a July wrap-up, and I did read quite a bit in July. Then August happened, so we'll get to that. Anyway, wrap-up time. So, just to recap, June, I had read like 21 books because I was participating in Wonderthon, and it was a lot. And in July, I still read quite a bit, I'd say. I was fearing it was going to put me in a reading slump, but it didn't, and I read some long books. So let me get my journal, because I don't remember the order in which I read things. All right, the first thing I read was an arc called Puzzle by Two by Josh Lanyon, if I remember correctly. Yes, this is contemporary mystery in which we follow this guy who inherits his dad private detective company, industry, whatever, shop, I don't know what to call it, agency, that's the word. And he's struggling. He was studying to be an accountant or something, I don't know. He has his sister with him. I love the sister. And he accepts this case for this weird millionaire guy who fears that his wife is trying to kill him. So he hires him to investigate and also pose as his boyfriend, date, something. It's very strange. And at the same time, there's another private detective guy in the same area, and they're rivals. This other guy doesn't think that I can't remember any names, as you can tell. He doesn't think that he's cut out for it or whatever. Anyway, there's obviously enemies, rivals to lovers, maybe, kind of thing. It was great. I really enjoyed it. The mystery was fun. with some twists that I wasn't expecting, and the relationship, the banter was great between them, and I really loved the sister in this. Apparently, I hadn't read from this author before, but he has a lot of mystery stories, and since this was my first, I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I had fun, but it was a good start to the month, and I read another arc, which is good. Then, somehow, I got an arc for Brandon Sanderson's newest book at the time, which was The Frugal Wizard's Guidebook to Medieval England. Did I say Surviving Medieval England? Handbook. I said the whole thing wrong. I'll put the picture up here. I have never read from Brandon Sanderson before, and I thought this would be a good introduction to his writing, because it's a standalone and it's not his usual thing. And I really enjoyed it. I don't know how I got the arc. Don't ask me. I think it had already been published, and it was going to be published that day, and I got the arc. It was very strange. I am not questioning it. And I had a lot of fun. I like the setup of it. It's like you can buy a time period or a pocket universe. It's like a different alternate timeline kind of thing. So you can go and visit that. So it's like you're going to medieval England, but it might be a little bit different. There might be magic, there might not, there might be some weird things going on. So we have this character who wakes up in this alternate time, whatever, in the past, technically. But he doesn't remember who he is. He doesn't know what he's doing there. And he finds some little bits of paper, and slowly his memory starts coming back. So you also get like pieces of the handbook as he's finding it, which I found hilarious. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's kind of like your basic fantasy adventure story, but yeah, I really enjoy the tropes, and I really enjoy the writing. So I'm definitely going to be reading more by Brandon Sanderson at some point. It's very intimidating to me. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But that was fun. Then I read one of the best books I've read. Like, it was so weird. I read Saint Sebastian's Abyss by Mark Haber? Not sure. Put the picture up here. The cover is fantastic. Someone recommended this in our Roads group for Wonderthon. It's a short novella, and many of us in the group were very intrigued by this, and I knew I had to read it. It's basically about these 2 art history professors who are obsessed with this painting of Saint Sebastian by this painter. I can't remember the name now. And they have based their whole careers on it, but at some point they had a falling out. These 2 best friends who had met at university and had based everything around this painting. So it's their story, and it's told in a very pretentious, weird way, and I enjoyed it so much. I loved it. It was great. It was a lot of fun, and I highly, highly recommend it. And then I finally have a physical book to show you. I finally read Christodora. If you've been here since January, you know I've been putting this on the TBR for months and months and months, and I finally read it in July. I will be inserting some clips here, probably of me reading this, because I was filming. I read this during my winter holidays, and I was filming a vlog, and then I never published it, I never posted it, and yeah, now it's just lost. I never finished it. I don't know. So I'm just gonna insert some clips here. Enjoy seeing me crying. I just finished the book. I think I spent like the last 30 pages of it just softly crying. Ah, my God. What a beautiful book. I can't. I'm gonna go eat some chocolate, and then I'll be back to tell you my thoughts, because fuck. That was a lot. That was very intense. Oh my God. But yes, I love this book so much. So what is this book about? This book follows the lives of the people who live in this building called Christodora from like 1980s onwards. So we have this young couple who adopt a son, and that was extremely personal for me, because I am considering adopting in my future. So yeah, that was a lot. Especially because of the circumstances surrounding this adoption. It's not an easy adoption, let's say. So it depicts the rise of the AIDS epidemic. We follow other characters who are connected to this couple, this main couple in the story. And the way it's told, it's so compelling because it's very character driven. So you really get to empathize. I can never say that word. You can really empathize with the characters who are very human. They all make mistakes and they react in very human ways to what life is throwing at them. The themes explored in this of like family and duty and dealing with addiction, dealing with disease. It was just, there's mental health rep. So much. Addiction obviously, and I should say content warning for drug use and abuse. There's depictions of overdoses, so it's not a light book to read, and it's not for everyone, I think. But I found it super compelling. I was rooting for all of these characters. I was dreading sometimes reading it because I didn't want anything bad to happen to them, but I knew like this was gonna be tragic, and it was. Also, many of the characters here are artists, and the depictions of the creation of art and everything was just great. I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed reading about the fight against AIDS and how people really had to advocate for themselves. There's an aspect of this that I maybe hadn't heard so much about, and that was women's fight, how they had to fight the government and the health organizations to recognize women's symptoms of AIDS, which were not the same as men's. And it was heartbreaking. Honestly, terrible and heartbreaking. There's a lot of representation here as well of queer relationships and minorities, and I loved it. This is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year, I think. I am so thankful that my best friend made me read it. So yeah, it made me feel really hopeful at the end, maybe a little bit. And yeah, because it's such I think AIDS has been such a big part of my generation, because we grew up hearing about how you had to protect yourself because you could get infected and you could get AIDS and you can die and there was no cure, and it was like we were bombarded with it as teenagers, I think, growing up in the 90s and the early noughts. And yeah, to think that we have a cure, or, you know, a cure is being developed, which has been working, and that in a few years maybe everyone will have access to it, it's just mind-blowing to me. Like, it makes me feel hopeful in humanity, I guess. But yeah, I finally read this book and I can't believe it. 5 stars, obviously. Next, I read, at the request of my sister, I read Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmes. This is her copy. I should really give it back to her. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars, I think. It made me cry. So yeah, it was great. I think everyone knows about this book. It's set in the 60s and it's about this woman who is a chemist, I think. Or yeah, she's a chemist. She's very discriminated against in her lab. And yeah, eventually she becomes a TV star with a cooking show in which she talks to women about cooking and treats it like chemistry. It also deals with a lot of social issues. There's content warning or trigger warning for sexual assault scene here. But yeah, it's also a romance, but not really. Like, at some point I was very confused, like, what am I reading? Why is there a romance? And I was so rooting for that romance, and yeah, that's what made me cry. So it deals a lot with grief as well, and motherhood, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't have much to say. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the adaptation. So yeah, I would recommend this book. Is it the best thing I've read? No, but I really enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars. What did I read next? I think that the next book I read also made me cry. Hold on, was it The Wishing Game? I think it was. Hold on. Yes, it was. Then I read The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I had originally thought that this was a fantasy. It is not. It's contemporary, but it feels magical because it's about this writer of children's books who has created this whole universe, and he lives on this island called Clock Island, and he's a recluse, but he writes letters to he responds to letters from his fans, and sorry, I'm getting emotional already thinking about it. Anyway, he has been very much in hiding and, like, you know, retired or whatever for a long time, dealing with some personal issues, and out of nowhere he decides to come out with a last book, but it's going to involve a competition. So he summons 4 of his fans who had a connection with him at some point, to go to the island, and there will be some sort of competition, and at the end the winner will get the copy of the book to do whatever they want with it. And so we follow this girl. Was her name Lucy? I think it was. She is an assistant teacher at a school. She's struggling with money and everything, but she wants to adopt this little boy who had been her student. She wants to foster him or adopt him, and she can't because she doesn't have enough money, and she doesn't, you know, have an independent life. And so this would be her chance. And it's very weird that I read 2 books about adoption in the same month, but I did, and I cried so much. But it also filled me with such hope, and it was so heartwarming and magical. Like, the word I should use is magical. I loved it. I loved it. The aspect of the competition, very Willy Wonka-esque, but more wholesome, I guess. And it was just beautiful, and I loved it. And I would recommend it to everyone. Also one of my favorites. Another 5 stars. Yeah, I can't. Moving on. What did I read next? I almost broke out my journal. Then I read... Then things took a sinister turn, because I read The North Water by... what's his name? Hold on. By Ian McGuire. This book was the complete opposite of The Wishing Game. It's sinister and violent and disgusting, but I loved it. It was so good. It was so well written. It follows another Arctic expedition, which, if you have been here, you know I've been obsessed with the terror for a while by the time I read that. So yes, and that's why my best friend also recommended it to me. So instead of an Arctic expedition like exploring, it follows a whaling expedition. But there's some weird things going on. There's a sinister character on board, and the captain has a secret, and we follow the ship's doctor, who also has a tragic backstory, and it's amazing. And yeah, it's his story of survival in the Arctic, and with all the things happening there. Very violent, 5 stars. I'm also looking forward to watching the adaptation, which I think stars Colin Farrell. So excited about that. And yeah, I finished that book the last day of July after finishing Good Omens, the series. Because I had to kind of force myself to go back to reading that book, because yeah, that's when the slump started. And that's the next thing I read, of course, is Good Omens, which I didn't mention at the beginning of this video, but it follows this angel, Aziraphale, and Crowley the demon, who have been living on Earth since the beginning. And they're very comfortable, and so when the apocalypse is gonna happen, they try to stop it. And they're so incompetent that they actually manage it. And it's the most beautiful thing. There's other characters as well. My favorites probably are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You can really feel their writing styles here, Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, and I love them both. And this book is just fantastic. And I love it very, very much. So yes, I read it again. And like I said, then I also started listening to the audiobook. I'm gonna link a video to David Tennant reading one of the scenes, just so I can convince you to go read it. It's just so good. Anyway, I haven't finished the audiobook yet, because I'm trying to like space it out. Because yeah, I had to get out of my obsession. But yes, 5 stars. Favorite of all time. Moving on. So, before starting Good Omens, I had actually started one of my books for the Magical Readathon, which was The Night Ship by Jess Kidd. I started this right after I finished The North Water, then my brain wouldn't stop screaming at me Good Omens, and I went and read that. So it took me all month, but the other... I read only one more book in August, and that was The Night Ship, which I loved. I think I only gave it 4 stars now that I'm thinking about it, but I really enjoyed it. It's just, yeah, it took me all month to read it, and I think that probably kind of affected my enjoyment of it maybe a little bit. I don't know, but I really, really enjoyed it. It's about it. We have dual timelines. We have this girl from like the 1600s. She's Danish, I want to say. Is that right? From Holland? From the Netherlands? That's Danish, right? Anyway, she's traveling... Dutch. Not Danish. Dutch. She has to travel to Batavia, which is in the Pacific, I think. No? Close to Australia, I think. Because her father is there and she has to go to him. So we follow their voyage, basically. There's weird things happening on the ship. She thinks that there's a monster there. So yeah, she's from like high class society, but she befriends the crew, some of the crew at least, of the ship, and so she gets below decks and everything trying to find this monster. Her story is kind of heartbreaking because it's based on a real story. This voyage happened, but the ship sank. So yes, and it's a real story. Amazing. Also very violent because the survivors gathered on this island, and well, and then we follow contemporary. I think it was in the 90s. I think it's set in the 90s, if I remember correctly. And we follow this boy who has to move from, I think he was living in Australia, and he has to, his mother died. So he's going to this island where the survivors had originally landed, let's say. And he's going there to live with his grandfather, who is a fisherman there. And yeah, we follow these 2 stories and these children's points of view, and yeah, it's all very heartbreaking and violent and terrible, but I really enjoyed it. Jess Kidd's writing style was just very different from things I've read before. It's like, it's not flowery and it's not lyrical, but it kind of makes you feel that it is. And there's not, the children don't emote that much, or there's not a lot of descriptions of their emotions, but you can feel them anyway. Or at least you put yourself in the shoes of those kids, and you know how you would feel, I guess. I would be sobbing all the time. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I really, really did. That was it. That was all I read in August. What can I say? There was a lot of fan fiction read as well, as I mentioned. Anyway, what's the next thing I read? I think that the next thing I read was another arc. Hold on. Is that correct? We're getting into September now. It shouldn't be too difficult. Yeah. The next thing I read was A Death I Gave Him by M.X. Liu. Am I saying that correctly? Yes, I did. I'm a genius. Anyway, I'll put the picture up here. I love this cover. This is a Hamlet retelling. It's the 3rd I've read in a year, maybe. Can you tell I'm obsessed? Yes, I really, really love this book. I gave it 5 stars. It's a modern retelling set in this lab. It's queer, there's AI involved. It's also like a murder mystery, but not. Like, you know who did it, because we all know what happens in Hamlet. But at the same time, there's some twists that I didn't see coming. And I thought it was great. And also the setting, because it's set in this lab, and Hamlet's uncle shuts it down as soon as the murder happens. So it gives Elsinore, which is, the castle, but also the name of this lab, this isolated mood feel thing to it, even more than in the original Hamlet, and it all contributes to Hamlet's mental state. I loved it. The narrative device also is very good. There's like kind of like mixed media, let's say. We follow different points of view. We have the recordings from Horatio, who is AI. It was so good. We follow like excerpts from a book from the Ophelia character. It's just very, very well done, very, very clever, and I loved it. And yes, I'm looking forward to reading more from this author, but that was great. It's out now, I think, already, so I would highly recommend it. 5 stars. And then I read one of my most anticipated books. Is that the next thing I read? Hold on, let me check. Why can't I remember anything? What's my brain? Yes, the next thing I read was one of my most highly anticipated books from years now. I think this came out last year, and that is Tiepolo Blue by James Cahill. This is the most gorgeous edition. It's a normal edition, but look inside. Look at the end papers. Oh my god! And it has purple foiling. I love it. Anyway, I was very surprised when I got it because I didn't expect it to be so beautiful. So yes, this is it in the 90s in Cambridge and London, and it follows this art history professor, another one, who is obsessed with Tiepolo and his paintings of everything, but especially the sky. And he's a very snobbish, typical art history professor who believes in only the classics and whatever. He doesn't understand modern art and doesn't believe it's art, whatever. And he has a bit of a breakdown because of a new art installation in his campus, and yeah, he ends up leaving his teaching role in Cambridge to go be the director of a small museum in London, helped by his mentor / friend for years in Cambridge. And he has a bit of a breakdown in this book. Many breakdowns, I would say. He is gay, but he hasn't had any sort of relationships. So he gets to explore his sexuality, I guess, in this book. He meets this young man. Did I say it's set in the 90s, which was very interesting. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I think I was expecting a bit more, but I have been thinking, I think I hyped it up so much in my head that I was expecting more, but at the same time it was good. The ending just left me like, what? That's exactly the type of book that I like, and it has been on my brain, so maybe it's more than 4 stars. I'm not sure. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It was great. So yeah. And the last thing I have finished in September so far is Herc by Phoenicia Rogerson. This is a retelling of Hercules, and it's so good. It's so good. I gave it 5 stars just as a heads up, because we follow Hercules' myth, but we never get his point of view. It's all told through other people in his life, from like his father, well, his adoptive father, I guess, Amphitryon, his brother, his sister, Megara, Meg, his other lovers, Theseus even. It's just a lot. It's so much, and I loved it. It was so good, so violent and visceral, and like, yeah. It definitely, it's so good that I only struggled just a little bit with the pictures in my head, because my brain kept trying to show me Disney Hercules, which definitely does not fit the vibe of this book. But yeah, it was so good that it was just a little bit, and then I could start picturing the characters on my own. I love Disney Hercules, by the way. I'm obsessed. I have been obsessed with that movie since I was a child. I can recite it in Spanish by heart. Anyway, not the point. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great retelling, and I would highly recommend it. And that's it. It's not that many books for the 3 months I have been discussing, but yes, the slump. You need to count the slump. I am now reading In These Hallowed Halls, which is a short story collection. It's a dark academia short story collection. And there's a story by Emma Rio in it, and that's basically why I wanted to read it. I've only read 2 stories, so I kind of hit a slump again. I don't know why. The first one, not so good. Second one, which was by Olivia Blake, I really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can get back into my reading era again and finish that book, because I really want to read Emma Rios' story. If you don't know, Emma Rios is the author of If We Were Villains, which is one of my all-time favorites. Looking forward to that. I have been speaking for half an hour. That's not as long as I thought it would be. Hopefully, I'll be back on a more regular basis. I missed filming videos, but I was also not feeling like it because of the whole slump life thing. But yeah, today it felt good to be back and talk to you guys, and I think I will enjoy editing this. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this rambling mess. Let me know if you have read any of these books. Especially let me know if you have seen or read Good Omens, because I am still so obsessed with it. I can't deal with it. I also need to get a haircut. But anyway, do let me know if you have read any of these books, or if I have tempted you into reading any of these. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and yeah, subscribe to see more of this, I guess. I'll see you soon, hopefully. Bye, happy reading!